I come back and have my breakfast, and then, I work a bit, I walk a bit, I work a bit, I walk a bit, and I take time out to go and do stuff.
Power to Live More with Jo Dodds.
Welcome to the Power to Live More podcast, all about productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience. I'm Jo Dodds, and I started this show to enable interesting people to share their stories about how they use their power to live more, and by that I mean to do the stuff that they want to do more than the stuff that they need to or should do. It's about creating a life for yourself where you have the energy, health and space to be happy and fulfilled, spending your time as you'd like, whether that be at work, home or somewhere else entirely. That's your choice.
Hello, my name is Ellie Dodds, I'm a co-presenter, and today Jo's interviewing Dale Darley of Book Brand Business. Jo and Dale met via LinkedIn when Dale sent Jo a connection request and she realised Dale would make an interesting guest. Dale is a business coach and mentor who supports her clients to write a book, build their brand and create a business they love. This is based on a clarity of direction, creation, what they want to create, confidence to deliver content that sells to clients that they enjoy working with. Back to the studio.
Today I'm interviewing Dale Darley of Book Brand Business. So welcome, Dale. I quite like alliteration and you're doing a lot of it in there.
I know. I do it on purpose, actually. I'm just creating a new program and all the components begin with C. So I'm making my way through the alphabet.
Brilliant. Well, great to have you with me. Tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and crucially, where you do it.
Okay, so the business is called Book Brand Business because what I do is I help people to find their voice and to share that typically, I'm going to say typically in a book. Writing is a big, huge passion of mine, but I believe that for most people, not everybody should write a book, but for most people, a book is such a fantastic vehicle for getting their message out, for raising their visibility, creating brand. But you can build a business around your book. So for me, it's the clarity piece. Writing the book is the clarity piece, but it doesn't have to be. So I adore what I do. I get to bring together all of the aspects of things that just really fill my heart, and I think it's about creating possibilities. So I take people through that process of getting them to understand what it is they want to create in the world, and then how we design, create, and deliver vehicles. Use vehicles, like a book is a vehicle, a course, maybe a program, so they get what I call their inspirational message out into the world. So it's something that really fills my heart, and I love it because when you help somebody write a book, it's a collaborative process and we become very connected, and I always make friends with my clients. I love it. It just is such a wonderful thing to do in the world. And I do this wonderful thing from a it's a 3-story house, and my office is in where the animals used to live. So I live in a tiny little hamlet in Spain, in the hills, in a village house in a cortico. And it is just the most peaceful, glorious place to live. So I'm very lucky. I didn't plan to come and live here. I bought a rundown house many years ago, and then something happened in my life, and so I packed myself and my dogs into our motorhome and I drove here, and I've been here ever since. So I get to live in a beautiful place and I get to do something that I truly adore.
Wow. And do I detect a sort of West Country twang in there somewhere? Is that where you started over here, or am I?
Well, well, interestingly, my dad was in the RAF, so I travelled a lot as a young person, but ended up in Wales. So you're not far, and it's kind of I I think Spain will soon be my adopted. I love Spain, but yeah, Wales is one of my most favourite places to live. It's just beautiful, and lots of my friends are there, of course. It's so yeah, not far.
Yeah, not too far. So you're operating your business through the modern wonders of technology. Presumably,
I have no choice. I have no choice. I can remember years ago saying to somebody, "Oh, this telephone coaching will never catch on." So there we are. Don't listen to me. I'm definitely not a futurist. No, it's so easy with technology. I mean, look what we're doing. It's just so easy. So easy.
Yes, well, today I've spoken to 2 people in America, one person in Spain and one person in London and one person who lives just up the road from me, but we did it through technology. So, yes, as you say, it's amazing. So tell us more about why you do what you do, how you got to do it, because, again, in common with somebody else I spoke to today, I don't imagine you grew up saying that you wanted to coach people remotely and how to create a book or a course or a workshop. It's not a job that is in the careers guide, is it?
It's not. It's funny. When I was growing up, I was joke with people. Lots of my friends think I wanted to be a rock star, and actually I would have been, but I can't sing. But I love the stage. But I do remember as a small child, very proudly announcing to a big group of children that when I grew up I was going to be a stripper. Well, I'm clearly not one of them either. So how did I get into this this role? I think that what happens with careers is that I kind of call it cosmic circles, roundabouts. You kind of, you do, so like a marketing job, or you might do a sales role, or you might be, do training. So you learn masses and masses of different skills, and it becomes like a patchwork quilt of stuff that you can do. So I got expelled from school, so I ended up doing a whole pile of horrid jobs until I joined the IT industry, and then I had a stellar career in training, sales and marketing. So I'd always kind of turned my hand to lots of things, but I always wrote in my journal short stories, and even when I was working in corporate, I wrote books. I wrote books on marketing and stuff like that. So I'd always been in entrepreneurial and done all. So really, all of those things together, there's elements of stuff that I love and things that I absolutely hate doing. So I'm hugely technical, but I don't want to build websites and stuff for people, but I can do it. So how I got into this was I got expelled from school, did rubbish jobs, joined the IT industry, did fantastically well, got made redundant, and did marketing consultancy, which I did enjoy. And then personal circumstances, I had to find a job, so I went back into corporate, back into marketing, and then got made redundant again, and then have stayed in self-employment ever since. And when you come out of a job, you tend to do what you did. So I was a marketing manager, I did marketing consultancy, and then what happened was I'd got a executive coaching qualification, did NLP. I did an MBA in my 30s because I worked in a very male-dominated industry, and I got tired of making sales and people going, "Oh, there, your secretary was terribly good." And I just think, I'm not a secretary. Nothing wrong with secretaries, but it was like I did all the business consultancy. I worked out, how we're going to make your business more efficient. Don't pat me on the head like I'm some sort of silly little girl. So I did an MBA because I had a chip on my shoulder with people treating me like a little girl. So I guess what I'm saying in a nutshell is, in a long way, is I have, I got lots of qualifications. I've done lots of variety of things. And then the book coaching, I was doing coaching and using writing, journaling, and the book journey process to help people get to the heart of what was going on and to help them to heal. So people came and wrote books that they never published, which was kind of strange, but I noticed there was a pattern in in trauma and healing and writing and the power of healing and the power of story. And then one day that just changed. I ran a big project with another book coach. We got, I think it was like 13 ladies to publish books in about 3 months. And then that changed. I just did book coaching from then on in. It was just like the combination of everything. So it's not just about writing a book. It's finding out what people want to create in the world. It's about building a brand. It's about, there's marketing, there's the launching, there's the productization, product development. So I have been able to use so many things that I have done over the years. I've been a product manager. I've done, personal branding strategy. I've done so many things. And now it's like they've all just come together in this beautiful package. So I can help people to write the book, build the brand, build the business around the book, and develop other products. So I'm sorry I went on a bit, but I think you get to a kind of age and you've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I was when people ask me a similar question, have a similar sort of answer, because there's always lots of threads to, as you say, lead to where you are. So good to hear that. And tell us a bit about what a typical day would involve for you in working with your clients. And I know no day's typical, but just sort of let us know the sorts of things that you're doing.
Okay, so let's say it's a one-to-one client. And in fact, I'll talk about a client that I currently have. So what is wonderful about this client is we had the sales call, and I always get people to go and do things before they come back for the first coaching thing. And she came back. This is not typical. She came back with a rough outline and had written 7,200 and something words and said, "Oh, I'm worried I haven't written enough." And I'm like, and you can imagine my jaw was open. This is a dream. So she actually is an amazing client because she does everything that we talk about. So she'll come on the phone. So we do a Zoom call. She'll come on and I'll have looked at what she's written. So I get a sense of her voice, a sense of her book. I'll have looked at the outline. I see things in patterns and pictures. So I'll look at someone's outline or their writing and I can see where the gaps are. I can see if things are flowing or not flowing. I get to see the language, their voice. I just see it. I don't know how I do it, but I just do. So that person would come on the phone. I would have looked at what they've written, and I always look at what they've done that is really good. And so many people don't think their writing is great, and actually it is. So I'll have read the work. I'll have thought about how it flows, how it hangs together, what's missing. We'll talk about it. So I'll talk about things that they may like to go and have a look at, maybe read some bits maybe out of someone's book, or interview someone, or do some research, or whatever. So we have that conversation, and that's always really interesting. Then we'll talk about the next chapter. So what I'd like to do is I like the client to tell me what the chapter is going to be about. So they talk me through it, they get it out of their head, and I can ask them questions, I can challenge them, I can suggest things. So that's all recorded, and then they get an action plan and they'll go off. So there's that kind of call. Another kind of call might be that I actually do a lot more writing. So someone will have written something and I actually need to get immersed in their book. So I'll have sat and done some writing, some editing. I may get a client that just has written their first draft and I do some developmental editing for them. I might, if I'm selling a program, I might end up with 6 million calls all in one day. It's back-to-back sales calls. Mm-hmm. I might have people who actually have written their book and then they're stuck on, well, what do I do next? What do I do? Do I have a Facebook group or page, or what kind of marketing do I need to do? So there's a huge variety. I might be coaching someone to get clarity on where they want to go, what they're supposed to be doing. And then I got loads of techie stuff to do, like right at the moment, I'm building a membership system for my group program. Today I did a little training course on how to blog your book for my inner circle. What else have I done today apart from get the boiler fixed today? So today wasn't a typical day. I'll do things like, I get up fairly early, so I journal, walk my dogs. I'll maybe start a blog. I might do some memes. I might fill my social media channels with things that need to happen. I might write some stuff on LinkedIn, in different Facebook groups and pages. Yeah, I do a lot.
Sounds
I do a lot.
Really busy and varied. So you're living in a little village with a countryside and lots of opportunity to take the dogs for a walk and not do very much. You've clearly got lots going on. How do you sort of get that balance? I mean, you've described off air, how beautiful it is where you're living, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I'd get any work done. How do you balance that?
Well, I actually have to manage my energy very well. I had practically all of last year off because my spine fractured and I had some other complications. So long before that, Joe, I was a bit of a workaholic. And what I learned by not being able to walk, to not being able to breathe properly, to being immensely tired, that you have to learn energy management. So as soon as the light comes up, I go for my first walk. And if you looked at my diary, whatever's in there, I diarise dog walks. So I walk the dogs about 4 times a day. So I take time out to refresh, to replenish, and they make me laugh. They're sniffing, they're eating horrible goat poo, they're running up and down the hills. Oh, disgusting creatures. They're beautiful. I mean, they are my life. So I manage my day by taking lots of breaks. So if I have a day where it's back-to-back calls, they all end where it gives me at least 15 minutes where I can go and stretch. So I've got a hanging bar. I might go and hang on the bar. I might go up to my terrace and just walk around the terrace and just get some air and stretch my body. I take lots of breaks. And, while it might be tempting just to sit on the terrace and eat ice cream and look at the hills, and sometimes I do, I take breaks because it is vital to managing my energy and really my inner peace and contentment. I don't want to be that workaholic anymore. That doesn't work. So I chunk my day. I wake up, I journal, I get my water, my supplements, a cup of tea. I'm out at first light. I come back and have my breakfast, and then, I work a bit, I walk a bit, I work a bit, I walk a bit, and I take time out to go and do stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I was talking to somebody earlier about time blocking and, scheduling in the diary. And I was saying to you before we started that I hate having things scheduled in my diary. So over the years, I've tried to put things in my calendar and it doesn't work for me. But the bit that does work is, as you've just said, a bit of this, a bit of that, do a few tasks, get immersed in something, stop and do something else. And I do all of that not in the calendar. It's all on my to-do list.
Well, I've only just started putting dog walks in because what I find is, if you're on a sales drive, it just your calendar just gets absolutely full of people wanting to talk to you, and you have to give them your best, and you can't give them your best if you're thinking, oh God, I haven't had a break. Interesting though as well. The other thing I do, Joe, is I do my calendar in my head, my time management. So although I've started putting the doggy walks in my calendar, what I tend to do is I'll look at the clock and I'll go, right, so I've got a call at 10. and I need to do this. Therefore, what I can do is I can do that call, and then I'll go and walk the dog. And so I do that in my head. But when I know that there are people booking my calendar, I have to block it out.
Yes. Yeah.
And colour code it. Sorry.
So you say about, your diary in your head and obviously people booking in the calendar. I know we talked before we started that that you journal. Do you use that for time or task management as well, or is that more of a sort of reflective process?
It's actually everything. So I have a number of different journals. So the way that I plan, so I've started my next round of 90-day planning this morning. So, I have journals for that. So, I scribble, I look at, what is it that's coming up, lots of coloured pens and stuff like that. So that's one form of journaling. Another form of journaling is I have a journal by the side of my desk, because I find it hard to use planners where you've only got like a titchy little place to put something. I've got big expansive writing. So what I do in my day-to-day journal is I write my goal. So if I've got a goal that I'm going to create a course and run a challenge, I put the goal at the top of the page and what the tasks are. Not very many tasks. And so it's, I can then map them off and mark them off. And then by the side of my bed, I have my journal for just getting stuff out of my head. But I've also got a journal up there for business ideas, because you wake up and you go, oh, I've got this great idea. So yeah, I've got journals for all kinds of things, and I journal in many, many different ways. So I like the unstructured approach to doing things. I like to mind map. I do make lists, but my journals are different journals for different things. And when I was very, very ill last year, I was 4 days into lying on my back in this village house, loads and loads of stairs, couldn't breathe, could hardly walk, and laid looking at the ceiling, and I thought, there is a beautiful journal downstairs that I was gifted. This journal needs to be by the side of my bed, because this journal is going to be my journey. So I got myself to the downstairs lounge, picked up this journal, got back to bed, and for the best part of a year, if I woke up in the middle of the night, I had, like I said, some other complications. If I woke up in the middle of the night and didn't want to be on the planet, because I'm so self-aware, and I knew it's because, my dopamine was low, my serotonin was low, I had no energy for some other reasons. I had high prolactin. There was loads of stuff going on. So I would just reach over to this journal and write whatever was going on. And then I'd go to sleep, wake up in the morning and think, that was marvelous. I don't actually want to read the rubbish that I've written. And then the other thing that I did with this journal is, because I have written a book about healing osteoporosis, I did all my research in it, all my ideas. And I said to you earlier, I see things in patterns and pictures, because I refused to take drugs and I wanted to do natural healing. I have trained in naturopathic nutrition, although I don't do that. I used my journal to find my root cause. So it became like just a big dump of ideas. If I researched the endocrine system, looking at the things that were wrong with me, it was always pathways and people's research papers, and it was all just about get it out, look for clues. So it's I often burn my journals, but this one I'm going to keep, because it's just full of stuff. And when I was writing the book, my memory said blah blah blah. I went to the journal and it was like, oh no, it's not. That's a lie. So I wrote the book while I was ill, so I didn't know that I could heal myself. I mean, I knew my inner wisdom said I could, but I didn't know that I couldn't tell you concretely. So I wrote my book while I was ill, and I used the journal to help me do it. And then when I was coming back on the book, checking facts, my journal had absolutely all the truth in it.
Yes. Yeah.
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 So journaling is really, really powerful. Really
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. What about technology, tools, and apps and that sort of thing? Do you use things alongside the journal? Right.
See, now you can ask me for three things and I can tell you a million things. I'm a tech geek. I joined the IT industry a long time ago. I love technology. So apps that are favorites, on my phone, I've got an app called Insight Timer. And it's just a little meditation app, but it's got some lovely guided meditations. And one of my favorite is Yoga Nidra for sleep. So sometimes I just go to bed and put that on. So Insight Timer is brilliant. Things for business, things like Missing Letter is great for scheduling a blog. My CRM system, so everyone I talk to goes into my CRM system, and have all my tasks and things I'm supposed to do and stuff like that. I can't use an online app for journaling. That doesn't work for me. I have to handwrite. But I've got apps for I use Grum for Instagram. I got Social Bee. Well, I constantly buy things and then end up not using them. So I've got my yes, I know. But Canva, that's one of my favorites.
Yes, yeah, I use that too.
So I guess all the usual typical tools people use for doing their social media. But I think outside of that, Google Maps, because trying to find my way around here is a bit of a nightmare.
Yes, I can imagine.
Just kind of like the usual stuff. But I think my three favorite CRM. When I was in corporate, I used to implement CRM, and so even though there's just me in the business, it's it's a really powerful piece of kit.
Yes, yeah. I've used I use something called Capsule CRM. I've used it for quite a long time, on and off. But it's interesting how I stopped using it and then realised that there were loads of things I didn't have captured anywhere, and started to use it again. And even things like when I do the podcast interviews, connecting up with people on all the social media was a real pain. But I then realised that if I add people into the CRM and add all their social media in, which is quite quick to do, it creates a little icon with a link to everybody's Twitter account, Facebook account, whatever, and I can just click on it and it takes me into wherever, and I can just connect up with people there. Whereas before I'd have to get the link and go into Facebook and whatever sort of thing. And so it's funny that the extra sort of functionality that you don't think about or realise until you just trip over it, and then you think, I could have been doing this all along.
Well, exactly. And it's like emails, you're having a back and forth interaction with a client, and I've got several different email accounts, which I do keep fairly clean, but trying to find things is a nightmare. CRM, it's all in one place, and then you can link it to your accounting system. I guess for me, I've still got big business mentality. I like my apps to be integrated, and so when they're not, it drives me insane. When I was in corporate, it was like, if we're going to put a CRM in, it's got to link to the account system, and it's got to link to the ERP, and people are supposed to use it. Ha. Don't. So I came from a sales background and into marketing, and I'd implement a CRM system, and I'd run all these campaigns, and I'd go back to things, and I go, how come no one's followed up? Oh, we have, and I'd look at the sales guys and I go, you do know, I can see you've opened the record and closed it in like 1 to 2 seconds, so I know you're lying. It's like, I have the power over you, but I've still got like big business mentality when it comes to having applications to support you. And we buy all these little apps, but it would be so delightful. I know you can buy systems that have got all the apps integrated, but they don't always do what you want. But it'd be just lovely to have everything working together.
Yes, no, I agree. So
In a perfect world.
let's talk a bit more about well-being, because you obviously talked about being really ill last year and healing from that. So, and you've thrown in some other things like the dog walking and so on. How do you make sure that you do keep yourself well, knowing what it can be like when you're not well?
I'm actually fairly radical when it comes to my health and well-being. So I've always been, I used to do weight training and yoga and Pilates, and although I hate running, I used to run, swim. So I've always been very fit. And what if I look back, what I notice about my life is I used to be a party girl and then eat well, right? Which kind of cancels it out. But what happened was when I came to Spain, I needed to get some health insurance. So I did that. And then I went to the doctor and I paid for a well woman checkup. So I'd gone through a fairly traumatic time coming here. So I'd left my world behind, came to this little house, and I felt well. I was walking my dogs, I was going to yoga, all sorts of stuff. And I went and had this well woman checkup, and they told me I had an overactive thyroid. And he said, are you sleeping? And I said, I sleep perfectly well. But I know with an overactive thyroid, people tend not to sleep. So I put that down to my good diet. And he said, I need you to see an endocrinologist. I said, no. I'll be back in 6 weeks and I'll have cured this. And this lovely Spanish doctor just looked and went, yeah, right, mad English woman. I went back 6 weeks later because I studied nutrition. I went back 6 weeks later and he took my blood test and he went, oh, it's perfect. And it's like, well, of course it's perfect. What do you expect?
I told you.
I told you I was going to do it.
Yeah.
So that actually made me focus very, very closely on my diet. I did change quite a lot of stuff, but I am radical. I look and I go, do I love myself enough that I will be in good health? So I didn't drink very much alcohol, but I cut it practically down to virtually nothing. I got rid of my Earl Grey tea. I stopped eating nightshades, gluten. I just did a whole pile of stuff that looked like it would help me. And then when my spine fractured last year, it was actually for freaky reasons. It wasn't really anything to do with I say it wasn't anything to do with my nutrition. I'd gone through a process of I've been vegetarian for years, went through a process of becoming a vegan. And I don't think I really had all the right nutrients in my diet. So I had I had freaky reasons why my spine fractured. But I sat down and I studied every system of the body, working out how everything worked and interacted, looking at my root cause, checking to say, if I ate that or took this, how would it affect my thyroid? So I became a bit of a bore and an encyclopedia because, someone would say to me, oh, look, I've got a spot on my finger. And I go, right. What we need to do is study the finger system of the body. I'm being silly now, but, I would catch myself say, well, of course, in the endocrine system, blah, 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 and this is precursor to that, and this works. And, I've really had to stop myself doing that and not and stop. But for me, anytime anything is going on, I look to my nutrition, I look to my energy. So, I've studied Reiki and crystal therapy, and I use all of those tools to stay well. So, I wake up in the morning, I drink water, I take the first lot of supplements, I have healthy breakfast, I make myself eat during the, I'm never hungry, but, I make myself eat green things on a regular basis. I eat a variety, but I always check that what I'm having is good nutrition. It's vital. I have to eat for my bones. I was so scared last year. I cannot tell you how scared I was. I laid in that bed and it was like, this can't be happening because I eat really well. But it did happen, you know, and like I said, it happened for freaky reasons. And I was just so upset that I had worked so hard on my health. So for me, it's not, you know, I do go off the rails. You know, I recently started eating I can't eat black chocolate anymore because there's too much arginine in it and it makes me itch. So I thought, well, I'll just eat horrid white, you know, milk chocolate. But I ended up having a craving for it. So I thought, why don't I just indulge the craving and then just stop eating it? So that's what I did. So yeah, you know, you just have to kind of do these things. But I honestly, you know, if I eat something that doesn't agree with me, the reaction on my body is horrible. So I don't do it. I just don't do it. Yeah.
No. So you've sort of touched already on when you said about you know, immersing yourself in learning. You know, the finger example that you said obviously was exaggerating. You know, tell us more about that, how you learn and improve and research these things, because I'm a bit like it as well. Whenever, you know, there's an issue, I go off to research a potential solution. How do you do that?
Yes, I do too. I sometimes think I must be one of the most boring people in the world, because it's like, right, books out, internet out. For me, in terms of, if I talk about, you know, business and personal growth, I have coaches and mentors. So you know, I've done that for years. I used to say I was uncoachable, and I think it's because I didn't want anyone to, you know, to kind of break me open. But actually, I adore people, you know, doing the coaching and mentoring. So, you know, and I go on programs to learn things. I buy courses, and I'm a very, very good student. I turn up, I do the work, I get involved. So the coaching and mentoring thing, that when it comes to books, I find myself, apart from novels, very, very rarely reading a non-fiction book all the way through. So if I take the osteoporosis, for example, if I'm researching a particular aspect, then I dip in and out of books depending on what it is I'm looking for. So with the osteoporosis, I mean, because I studied nutrition, I have mountains of books that are like the size of 10 bricks to read through. So I kind of go on a journey with different books. So I guess they become like a reference library. So I learn by, there's something, I need to find something, I'm looking for a clue. So a bit like you do keyword research on a computer, I'll dive into books looking for stuff, and then I'll read it. But I always keep my journal by my side. So I'll read things and my mind goes off in a million different directions. So I'll read, I'll journal, I'll mind map, and then that'll lead me to something else. So I'm a bit of a butterfly. I flick from, and which is why the Kindle is great, because you can put a search term in, and 1 minute you might be reading something by the medical media, and the next minute you might be reading something, one of the osteoporosis books. Then you might be reading, for me, it was a book on shingles. So you can easily jump about, and I don't know how I learn. All I know is I read, my mind makes connections, I then chase those connections down, I scribble, that gives me clues, then I might talk to someone. I quite like, when I was ill, I talked to a fellow naturopath, and I would say to her, right, well, I've looked at this, and I looked at that, and I think this is what I need to do, what do you think? And we would talk it back and forward. Mm-hmm. So it's all, so yeah, it's I just dip in and out depending on what I need. So, I don't think I've got like a favorite non-fiction book. They're all useful, all of them.
Yes. Yeah. And so what about those days when things don't go right? How do you approach that? I'm expecting a process here.
Well, it kind of depends what it is. So I might get into a tizzy. So I might think lots of expletives. I might cry. So, I'll blame that on the moon or Mercury or something. So, if I'm feeling a little tired, I might cry about something. I think crying's good because you're releasing stuff. I always go for a walk with the dogs, and because there's no one around, I rabbit to myself. So I have a little like this. But because I'm in Mother Nature, it diminishes the problem. And I journal. So I think if something goes wrong, it depends on what goes wrong. But actually, I call myself the queen of reframe because I'll allow that initial emotion to do whatever it needs to do in whatever way. And then I go, okay, what do I need to learn from this? Curious. Let's go for a walk. The walk or the journaling will help to reveal it. And I always try to look at things from other people's perspective, always believing that people do the best that they can with the resources that they've got. I try to separate people's behavior from who they are. So I do a lot of, I guess my brain does a lot of processing, and I just let things go. I think if it's not massively important, I'll let it go. I think it's important to allow the emotion to come up. I think what I've learned from being ill is if you don't express your emotion and you don't deal with it, it'll manifest in some other way. So let it come up, go for a walk, write about it, process it, just let it do whatever it needs to do, reframe, and just get on with life. Let it go. I burn things. I write things and burn things. So I think it depends. It depends.
Yeah. I like the reframe. One of my friends always sends me messages going, I need a reframe.
So you're the queen of reframe too.
Yes. Well, but probably for other people. I'm not so good at it for myself, maybe.
I've learned it's a good way to not let it really get to you. I'd lie if I didn't say things do niggle me for a while. You can't just immediately get rid of things, but I think it's just important to, is it really important? Nah, let it go. And when it comes to people that do things, I've now learned to just, it's like, if that's how you're going to be with me and you're not very nice, well, I'm just going to cut you out of my life. So I don't want to, be a people pleaser. I do sometimes have problems, with my boundaries. So I've got to work on that. I'm getting better. But we just, we are human with all the frailties that come with it. And, this life is just one great big bloody lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what about those days where you end the day feeling that you've had the chance to live more? And I just define living more as getting to do the things you want to do rather than the things that you feel you should do or you have to do. What does that day look like for you?
I live a really, really simple life, very happy in my own company, love being with my dogs. So a day, if I take a Saturday, I don't work on a Saturday, it's a lovely potter around, walk the dogs even more, perhaps sit on the terrace and read. It's a day of just reconnecting with my soul. Or I like to do, like we have lots of bars where there's lots of retired people, so they're all in bands, so there's lots of that kind of stuff going on. But I kind of like to do really little bit of special things. So my mum lives 2 hours away, and she'll be 81 this year, and I like to create experiences for my mum. So last year we went to an amphitheatre and we saw a band called Unrisen Queen. The guy was just like Freddie Mercury. So imagine you're under starlit sky. It's a balmy August night, and there is the most amazing music playing. And then in another place called Cartagena, I saw Texas and Human League last year. And
wow.
I'll make everyone jealous. The tickets were like €25, but in an amphitheatre, and it was just incredible. So a day for me is a day, when I feel like it's well lived. It might be a day where I've just fed my soul in some way, ballet, music, a band. Or if it's a day when I've been with a client and just been when you have those really lovely calls, and it's funny, it's fun, it's inspiring, and they've gone off to do something that feels good. So it's I don't really have those urges to travel the world. I like to travel in. I like my peace and quiet, and so a day where I've lived more is where I've got connected to that inner peace. Maybe talk to friends. It's really simple, really, really simple stuff. Really simple stuff.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to hear. So thank you so much for joining me, Dale. It's gone very quickly and full of lots of useful information. So I'm going to have to go back and listen, as I do now. I listen to the podcast now. I didn't used to, but I'm enjoying them very much as a listener rather than an interviewer.
That's great.
So tell the listeners how they can get in contact with you and find out more about you.
Okay, so the website is bookbrandbusiness.com. You can find me on Facebook. So I have a Facebook page which is called Dale Darley Book Brand Business, and there's just my name, and I'm on LinkedIn, Dale Darley.
Lovely, excellent. Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's been absolutely wonderful. I could talk to you all night.
All this information is available in the show notes. If you go to powertolivemore.com / in this case 109, you'll find them there. And the tool that I shared on the newsletter last week it's actually another, as I call them, random referral. Random because it isn't at all. It was another BBC programme, so apologies to American listeners, but if you use the VPN recommendation, NordVPN from the other week, you might still be able to see it. It's called The Dementia Choir. A load of my friends recommended it to me a while ago, but I only just got round to watching it last week whilst I was on holiday, and oh my god, I couldn't stop crying. It was so poignant and yet so uplifting at the same time. Basically, they got a group of people with dementia together, all different types of dementias. So there were younger people as well as older ones, who are those that we may associate more with the disease. And they end up giving a performance in a concert hall. The show's over 2 weeks, and the first one's only available until Saturday tomorrow. That's the 8th of June. So I'd really urge you to hop over there if you're listening to this before it goes. The second show, I think, has got a week or two left to still be available on iPlayer, so you can at least see the second half of it even if you missed the first bit. So a definite recommend, but get the tissues handy. If you haven't seen my blog post this week talking about my new membership site, if you're a home-based coach or consultant, then you might be interested in finding out a bit more about what is coming. So if you go to powertolivemore.com /calm, CALM, then you can find out more about it. Again, the show notes for the show this week are at powertolivemore.com /109, and we look forward to speaking to you next week.
Use your power to live more.